Hello everyone, here is Mary from Dictra International. I'm really glad to be with you today to discuss about our new product, which is our microdermabrasion machine. It's our Safina by Vitapil. Safina, it's unique because it's a combination of microcrystal as well as diamond tip. So you can customize your treatment, you can be really versatile with what you're doing for your patient, and really be able to target every sign, fine line, pigmentation, stretch mark, everything that microdermabrasion helps to improve the texture. We're here to help with that. So our first modality that we will discuss together today, it's our revitalization. The revitalization is a first aspiration that we are doing on the skin to create a slight hyperemia that help with the blood circulation, which help with the cell turnover, but it also improve by loosening up all the dead skin cells on the surface of the skin. So I like to compare it as vacuuming before you cleaning the floor. So it helps to remove all the little impurity really on the surface before you're doing a deep cleansing with the active exfoliation with your microdermabrasion. So right now, let's go see together what we have to select. So when I'm eating the revitalization, then I have the choice between male or female, depending on who I'm treating. Then I can select from a scale from 1 to 5, from the skin texture, sensitivity of the client, redness that you can see on the face. So to make sure you adjust the intensity of your treatment accordingly. With this specific client today, I will go with a 2 because she do have a little bit of process on her cheeks, a little bit of redness here and there, so I want to be more gentle with that skin type. So 2, then I'm ready to go. We will go together into the treatment session and see how we do the revitalization. We are now ready to start with the treatment process. So we're starting with the revitalization. I first off clean the skin of my client, make sure I have no makeup left on the skin. I also tone, I protect the eyes with disposable eye protection. You can also use a little 2x2 with tonic on it and apply it on the eyes. So whatever works for you, it's good. It's just to make sure that you have no aluminum salt going into your client's eyes. I wear gloves. I also wear a disposable face mask. That's really important when you do microdermabrasion because you have little dead skin cells that are detaching from the skin as well as your crystal, and you don't want that to fall into your respiratory tract. So that's the reason why it's mandatory to use a face mask when you're doing microdermabrasion. So let's now start the treatment. Let's adjust our device. So as we're starting with the revitalization, the movement we have to do, we always want to hold the skin tight to make sure the aspiration is not moving the skin along, and we will drag down like this, and we will do slow motion to make sure we're going everywhere on the face. Remind you, it will help with self turnover. Now that we are done with the treatment, you can see that our client's skin have a little bit of redness, which is totally normal and great for our self turnover. So let's move on with the next treatment step. So now that we're done with the revitalization, we will go into the exfoliation mode. With the Safina, you have the choice between the diamond tip as well as the microcrystal. To show you how versatile is the device today, I will do both on the same client. So the microcrystal with the Safina Pro, you do have access to 2 types of microcrystal. The fine microcrystal and the ultra fine microcrystal, giving you the opportunity to work with both in the same treatment if you want to. let's say here in the forehead, we do have a little bit of dehydration line, and on the cheeks, she got a little bit of redness, a little bit of necrosis. So I clearly want to be more gentle on her cheek, but I can be a little bit more aggressive on her forehead to really give a go to those little dehydration line. So you can change the grip of the microcrystal during the treatment. Of course, you have to stop the device, change the microcrystal, and restart. Or you can also work with the microcrystal and then come with the diamond tip and do a little extra on specific line, specific area, let's say brows, the lip, bridge of the nose as well. Everywhere where you cannot go with the crystal, then your diamond tip can help you. So you can also do only the microcrystal. That's also a possibility. So it makes the treatment really customizable and easy to work on any skin type with any condition. So for today, we will start with the ultra fine microcrystal that I'm selecting here. I'm still working on a woman. And as for the adjustment goes, so we can go from 1 to 5. Once again, I will go with number 2 for her because of the necrosis and the skin texture. And I will be ready to be set and ready to start. So let's join me in the treatment area. We're now ready to start with the microcrystal section. So now let's adjust the device and start on. So to start off, I will come do a little tension of the skin, just like we did previously. I want to make sure that the skin is well taut. And I will do a little zigzag movement between my finger, and those crisscross will actually help with even distribution of the microcrystal. Then, when that is done, I will depress my foot switch to allow the aspiration mode and make sure I'm taking out all the microcrystal I'm just putting on the skin. That will make sure that my treatment is efficient, but also not so messy. And then I will move on to the next zone. Same thing, microcrystal, so my foot is not touching the foot switch. And then when I'm done depressing the foot switch and doing the aspiration of the microcrystal. The faster you go, the more superficial you are in your exfoliation. The slower you go, the more deeper you are with your exfoliation. Now that we are done with the microcrystal, I always double check skin sensitivity and reaction of my client before moving on with the next step. Now that the exfoliation part with the microcrystal is done, let's speak about the diamond tip. The diamond tip is a little tip with part of diamond or sapphire that are stick really close to each other that will create a mechanical exfoliation. So with the aspiration you have with the device, it will really create the movement, and the aspiration will create the exfoliation. So we selecting the diamond tip usually when we have a really, really sensitive skin and you want to control as you go to make sure you don't make the skin overreact. So that's a good way of selecting it. It's also a nice way to include because you have different size of diamond tip. So when you're working really in detail in fine dehydration line, on the brows, around the eyes, around the mouth, it's really interesting to have those really small bits to help you to work really in detail, but also it's a nice way to combine it, just like we did today. Do the microcrystal and just do the finish touch on the dehydration line, just to give a little more on the brows, on the bridge of the nose, as well as the mouth. We will see that in a few minutes. So that will really give me a full and complete treatment, and that gives you something that the competition don't have. Let's go into the device. We selecting the diamond tip. I'm still working on the face and I'm still working on my client, which is a woman. We working from 1 to 5. Once again, because I already have done microcrystal on my client and she is more into the sensitive area, I will select 1 as pre-programmation for this one just to make sure I do respect the sensitivity of her skin. And I will be ready to start. So let's move on into the treatment settings and see how it worked. We're now ready to start with our diamond tip portion of the treatment. As explained before, we will move on with the dehydration line, the brows, and the mouth of my client. I select a small diamond tip to be able to detail every single one of the dehydration line. Now that we are ready, let's set the device and start. I will once again hold the tissue tight. No pressure on my tip. It's really the aspiration that is doing the trick. And I will just slide down on the dehydration line. I will also come back and do a little crisscross to make sure I'm detailing that fine line. Same thing in the brows. I will do slight movement, always holding tight, moving the brows and all the part that I want to exfoliate on the bone part, and then just slide down on the tip and where is more dehydrated. Now that our treatment is done, we're ready for the next step. We will move on to the nebulization section. Now that we're done with the diamond tip, let's move on with the nebulization. The nebulization is the aftercare part. Really interesting to recalibrate the pH, cool down the skin, which after a microdermabrasion, you really need to cool down the skin. It will also help refresh, so the sensation for the client is really nice. So it's a cold mist here that we're applying with the nebulizator, which is that tool. We adding lotion right here, and then we're ready to set and to work. Once again, you will select on who you're working and as well as from 1 to 5. Here I have a patient that do have a sensitive skin, have a little bit more redness, so I like to go a little higher on the scale, so I will go up to 3, so I have more movement in my pulverization. That will be really nice and refreshing for her. And yes, that's it. So let's move on into the treatment together. We are now at the last treatment step, which is the nebulization. I put some tonic in my container. I use the medium container because right now I'm working on the face. I have a smaller one if I'm doing only zone treatment, or I also have a big one, let's say if I'm doing a full back. I will depress the part here to create the nebulization effect. Right now I keep the eye protection on. If not, then I will protect the opening of the eyes with a little 4x4. Same thing with the opening of the mouth and opening of the nose to make sure that none of the tonic K get enter into the body. So let's move on with the nebulization. So the tonic K will really help to restructure the skin, decrease the redness that are present after treatment, and it's totally normal. We're now done with the nebulization, so the treatment is complete. We always recommend to follow the nebulization with a hydrating or nourishing mask, as well as the finishing product, including a sun protection.